Perfect.
Let's start with Ryan. Let's start with
Coach, what have you learned about your group that you didn't know maybe 30 days ago?
Probably the biggest thing that we learned about our group, Ryan, is how resilient of a group we have, but also I would also say the depth that we have, seeing some of the guys put in a lot of work, and we can see their intensity through repetition really starting to come out and come into play to where they're learning everything systematically, they're applying everything that we want them to be able to do fundamentally, and they're putting themselves in position where they're saying, Coach, I can be trusted and you can put me in a football game.
When you first came to campus, you talked a lot about player-led mentalities, getting the guys in the room and having them sort of coach each other or follow each other's instructions. How have you seen that sort of just grow throughout the summer and throughout fall camp, and how that's kind of leading you into the season right now?
It's been really good being able to see the evolution of leadership happening within our room and within our football team as a whole. When you can see the players holding each other accountable, when you can see the players wanting to be held accountable, and you can see the players doing extra things and extra small little things, that lets you know that the player-led mentality is beginning to kick in and continuing to kick in. So we've definitely been pleased thus far with a lot of the mentality and the thinking and the actions that the players have been coming up with thus far. And they've really done a great job of really taking our lead and doing what we're asking them to do.
Coach, a lot of times the discussion with Keenan Peely is his age, you know, the whole uncle grandpa thing the title you gave him. But what do you anticipate he's going to bring to the field for you? He's only played, you know, part of one game, and you haven't coached him in the game. On the field, Keenan Peely, what do you anticipate?
We anticipate someone that's going to be very active, very aggressive, and someone that's going to be running sideline to sideline. Someone who will be making all kind of plays, and everyone will know where number 11 is on the football field. That's kind of our vision that we want to create in him. And the one thing that allows us to be able to do that is that's what he's shown thus far, and he's got the capabilities of being able to do that. And it's our responsibility to push him to where he can be one of the best linebackers in the country, and he can be that and do that for sure.
How do you know when your group has had enough work to be a good tackling team, to be a good tackling unit to start the year? And where do you feel like your tackling is right now?
That's one question you really never know. You don't know that until you're really actually in the battlefield doing it. The one thing that we do is we do practice our tackling often and all the time, but sometimes that's the one question where as a coach you're sitting back in the corner like, oh my gosh, please let's make sure this never shows its face. But from a teaching standpoint, you want to make sure that you always teach tackling to where whenever we're in some kind of padded day, there's going to be some tackling all the time to make sure you can get your players in position where their footwork and body position is where it needs to be so we can make those plays. But you really don't know until you're in the battlefield and it's there.
Do you feel like you tackled well in the scrimmages?
Yeah, from a scrimmage standpoint, yes. And one thing that we try to do is to make sure that we always, as well, take care of our football team. And that's where we've really seen, I think, a lot of growth and maturity happen on our football team, how everybody's taking care of each other. And when you have a chance to make your tackle, it's literally the one-shot, one-kill mentality to where you're making your tackle, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're making the play you're supposed to make when you're at the point of attack.
Ryan and Rob.
Just on a similar note, when you're weighing the individual pieces in your room, how much value do you put on actual game reps and game film compared to the total body of work from over the camps?
It's a little bit of both, yeah, and some of it is when you think about just everyone in our room, there's not a lot of individuals who are quote-unquote returning that have a lot of game footage. So I have to go off of what I've seen and the ability to put them under some adverse conditions in practice and to see how they thrive in those moments, and that literally gives us a lot of trust in them. And also I want to let them know, hey, I trust you and you're going to go into the battlefield and you're going to do well. It's our job as coaches also to be able to breathe confidence into them to where there's no uncertainties from their standpoint when they hit the field also.
Coach, how specific are the skill sets you want at your positions? I guess what in the depth chart can T-Lander and Caleb Peary, can they both come in and play either position?
Yes, yeah, and that's something that we want. Now, when you think about the body types, there's some different things that T-Lander can do and versus Caleb Perry when you just look at the two body types. But we think they could both go in and apply the jobs and do the things that they're supposed to do. And one thing that we always want to do is to let our players know, even from a recruiting standpoint, you're going to be recruited to be a dual player. We never want to back you into a corner and say you only can do one thing, because if you want to make this your occupation, the more things you can do, the more value you're going to have to your football team.
Ryan and Wes.
Coach, what's the biggest jump you've seen in Arion Carter when you look back at his film from last season compared to where he is now, and what kind of camp has he had overall?
I think the biggest jump that I've just seen overall from Arion Carter is just his level of preparation. You'll see he's someone where he will be the first person in the building, and during camp, he stayed here every day. He was in the film when we left. He was in the film room sending text messages about things that were going on during that particular day, or things that could have been going on or happening for the next day. To see his level of preparation and to see the things that he's doing for the group and for the team and for the unit on defense, that's what you want to see from a coach. So seeing his growth is probably one of the better things that I've been able to see. When you see him run, it shows up immediately that he is someone who can run fast and hit hard, and that's what we love to see.
Yeah, William, the question I was going to ask was sort of asked a minute ago, so I'll spin it, or try to spin it, I guess. How many guys do you feel comfortable playing right now, in a game that's competitive? How do you feel about the depth overall?
We feel pretty good about our depth overall, and there's, for us, if you understand the system, you make the plays you're supposed to make at the point of attack, and you know how to drive our defense, you'll have an opportunity to play. And what I would love to be able to do is to make sure we can play five, six players, and that's historically what I've been able to do, is to make sure that from a preparation standpoint, that number of guys have been prepared and that number of guys have played, and they all have a specific role. It may be someone comes in when it's third down and long, someone comes in when it's third down and short, someone comes in goal line short yardage, but being able to give those guys what you would say hope. Because if you know that you're going to be going to the football game, how much more are you going to be ready when it comes to your level of preparation? So when you do that for them, they're going to give it back to you in return. So I would love to be able to make sure from a group standpoint that we play. If you have a uniform on and you're ready to play, you're going to have a chance to play.
We've talked a lot about Edwin Spillman throughout camp. How has he continued to progress, and what role do you see him playing on Saturdays?
Yeah, Edwin is definitely progressing very well. He is someone, when you talk about being able to stuff and stop the run, that his body type fits exactly just that. He does not get moved when he's in there fitting. As a player who's learning and growing, it's great to see the things that he does on special teams. So he is someone, he has a great role in our room, and it's awesome to see him learning every day. It's actually special to see him coming on with his smile, and he's learning. And when you have Keenan Pidley and Arion Carter putting you up under their wing, you can only go up. So it's great seeing him continue to excel.
You talked a little bit about Keenan back here. You talked a little bit about Keenan. Just how would you describe his drive and readiness to get back on the actual game field, since he only has that one game under him as a Vol?
Yeah, it's for him. He is kind of mature beyond his age or time, but we all know he's a little more mature than everyone else. So it's kind of an oxymoron in the room. But to see his mindset, he knows he's just ready to go play. The good thing about this is he's had the opportunity and the exposure to be around a lot of good people, a lot of good coaches, a lot of good players. So he knows how to have himself ready and prepared to do his job on game day. I just can't wait to see him be able to go and apply it. That's our responsibility as coaches, to see him be able to be able to go do that. So he's ready, his mindset is right, and he knows he's doing everything he can to help the rest of the guys around him to be even better.
Coach, back here. Yesterday, a big talk was the depth chart that we all got and how many kind of potential starters were listed. What goes into the strategy of releasing a depth chart without that certainty, and how much is it just you don't have to show all your cards, so you won't?
Well, a lot of it is when you have competition at those respective positions. That's kind of how you may feel as a coach. Just for example, in the linebacker room, you can pick any two players, and they're going to be able to go apply their job and do what they're supposed to do as starters. And that's kind of how we feel as a staff. So I guess when you see someone who may be an or scenario, we feel pretty good about the next person being able to come in and being able to compete at a high level to help us compete for a championship.
You talked about Arion growing in sort of his responsibilities in film room. He's put in the hours. How is his understanding of the film that he's looked at, and how have you seen him grow in that way?
And that's where he and I have gotten closer. From my perspective, being able to help show him what he's looking at while he's looking at film or while he's watching film. So that's where he's really had the chance to really sharpen his laser. Just the conversations that he and I have when we're working in the film room. And that's literally where he's taken a lot of the big jumps, just because now he's understanding how to look at the film, what he's looking at, what he's looking for, what's the situation that's going on and presenting itself on the field. So that's where he's really kind of matured himself here over the last 7 months.
Coach, what are some things that stand out about Chattanooga on offense, and what are you guys as a staff emphasizing to your team, your defense this week?
I said again, you said?
Just what stands out about Chattanooga on offense, and what are you guys?
Chattanooga on offense.
What are you guys emphasizing to your defense this week in preparation?
Yeah, and I think some of the things we talked about early, when you come into week one, the biggest thing you have to do is make sure you keep a lot of the focus on your football team, because from a fundamental standpoint, that's where the blocking and tackling always kind of shows up. So we've kind of really put a lot of the emphasis on us being able to make our plays at the point of attack. The one thing that we see that is fairly similar is you look at our offensive structure and scheme here at Tennessee and their offensive structure and scheme. It's all very, very, very similar. So we've been able to get a multitude of kind of the practicing when we're going against our offense. So that's been something that's been able to help us. We know that they're a very good they have a very good mature quarterback who's going to lead them. We know they have some new players at some of the big skill positions, like at the tight end, he's a returning guy. Running backs are going to be fairly new, so you don't know what you're going to get there. And from a receiver standpoint, we know there are some guys that the quarterbacks love to throw to. So we have to make sure that we're on our game and we apply all of our fundamentals coming into game one. The thing we're really focusing on is make sure we don't lose sight of us.